Welcome to the Amari miniskirt sewing tutorial. This is the Amari miniskirt. It's what we are making today and it is super easy to make. It's just a basic little mini skirt and it has a cute little front slit there, and of course then you have your invisible zipper on the side. If you're a beginner sewer, the only difficult part with this is the zipper. Everything else is pretty easy to do. Also maybe like the slit, just sewing that part. If you don't know how to like lift your needle and swivel it, we do go over that in this tutorial, but it is a very easy and simple skirt to do, and if you're a beginner, I definitely recommend giving this a go. So let's get into the tutorial. Once you've printed and assembled your patterns, it's time to cut your pieces out. Follow the cutting guides on your pattern and remember to mark your notches as well as the darts on the back piece. You'll also need to pin the dart points. If you're using a patterned fabric, make sure it's all going the right direction. Now we're going to pin our darts on the back piece by lining up the notches with one another, pinning in place, and then adjust the pin that was in the dart point. There should be 2 darts at the back of the skirt. Once you've pinned them, we'll sew a straight stitch from where the notch is down and over the point. I usually sew over the edge of the fabric, and then instead of back tacking or cutting off the excess, I tie a couple of small knots in the thread and then cut the excess off. I find this just helps stop the dart from coming undone, and it also sits nicely. Next, we'll sew the waistband side seam, lay the front piece down and then lay the back piece on top with the good sides facing, and then sew a straight stitch along the right side. Overlock this as well, or you can zigzag stitch if you don't have an overlocker. We're also going to overlock the edges of the waistband. You can leave the top curve part for now, as we'll come back to it later. I overlock the short edge, then lift my needle and swivel, then continue sewing the long edge, lift and swivel, and then finish with the other shorter edge. We're also going to overlock all of the sides of the other pattern pieces. You can leave the top and the bottom, as we'll come back to this later, just go over the side parts. This is optional, but if you have a zipper that comes on a roll or you just want to cover up the bottom of your zipper, you can cut off some extra fabric about 2 inches long and create a little cover for it. All you have to do is place the fabric good side facing to the good side of the bottom of the zipper with both the raw edges going the same direction. Now sew a straight stitch over this edge slowly as you'll be going over the zipper teeth. Then you can pull this fabric over and fold it in half and align it with the raw edge where you just sewed. You'll also need to fold over that other raw edge about 1 centimeter. So a straight stitch over this again and you now have this little casing. I also take this to my overlocker and overlock those side edges that are still raw, and then after that I take a large needle and thread the ends of the thread through the hoops of the thread, and this will just help to keep them in place and make it look a lot neater. Again, you don't have to do this step though, it is optional, but it is a nice way to finish the bottom of your zipper. We're going to go to the ironing board and iron our darts so they sit nice and flat. I like to push the darts all to one side and press them. Now we're going to place our front skirt panel down with the straight edge to the right, and then take the front left panel and place it on top with the straight edges aligned and the good sides facing one another. Pin in place to where the notches is for the split, and then we will sew a straight stitch along this edge, stopping at the notch. I also like to change my stitch length to slightly shorter as it helps to just hold the pieces together a bit better. Once you get to the notch, we're going to stop and back tack, and then we'll head over to the iron and iron the seams open, and also go ahead and iron the hem for the slit. Then we'll sew the slit's hem by starting from the bottom and sewing a straight stitch up until we reach about 1/2 centimeter over where the fabric joins together. Then we'll leave the needle in the fabric, lift up the presser foot, swivel, place it back down and sew until we get across to the other side, then do the same swivel technique again and continue to sew to the bottom of the hem. Now you'll have the slit done, and we can now place the back skirt on top of the front with the good sides facing, and we're going to pin down the right side, or the side that the smaller front panel piece is on, because the other side will have the zipper. Pin this all in place and then take it to your sewing machine and sew all the way down that edge. Iron this seam so that it sits nice and flat, and then we're going to move on to the zipper next. With the good side of the zipper facing the good side of the back panel, we'll pin this in place and also open your zipper up. Make sure that the zipper teeth are facing inwards too. Sew a straight stitch along this edge until we get to just before where the zipper pull is. Then we'll repeat this for the opposite side by laying the good sides of the front and back of the skirt on top of each other and repeating the steps for the zipper. To finish this part off, we'll pin the side seam underneath the zip together in the front and back panel and sew a straight stitch starting from about 1 centimeter or a half centimeter over where the zipper stitching was finished. Sew from the zipper down to the hem, and then we'll also secure the bottom of the zipper by pinning that bottom part to the seam or overlocked edge of the skirt and sewing a small stitch along that edge. Make sure you don't catch the actual part of the skirt, you just want that edge that is overlocked. Do this for both sides to secure the zipper. Close up your zip and iron this seam nice and flat. Then we'll move on to the waistband. Next, we'll attach the waistband to the skirt. The front piece is slightly longer than the back piece, and there should be a slight overlap with either end. Pin the waistband with the good side of the fabric facing the good side of the skirt. I like to line up the side seams too, and then we'll go ahead and sew a straight stitch along this edge, and then after that we'll also overlock. with that extra bit of fabric that is hanging over, we're going to sew a straight stitch right next to where the zipper is, and this will create a sort of casing for that zip and hide all of the raw edges. So sew a straight stitch right next to it, and then after this you can cut diagonally across that top corner of where the zip and the fabric all is, and then flip the waistband to the right side out and then iron it. This just helps create a nice crisp corner and it sits nice and flat against the body. I like to also go back and sew a straight stitch 5 or 6 centimeters down next to the zipper, and this will help hold that waistband fabric to the side and stop it from catching in the zip. I also like to sew a straight stitch in the ditch method with the opposite side seam. It just helps to hold the fabric in place. So you can just do this by sewing a straight stitch in between the sort of seam part of the side seam. After that, we're going to overlock the bottom edge of the skirt, and then we're going to also iron our hem about 1 centimeter by folding it up and then just pressing it with the iron. And then we'll move back over to our sewing machine and sew a straight stitch all along the edge, and then you're basically done. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you guys create your very own Amari mini skirts. Be sure to tag me at inmay_the_label on Instagram or TikTok with your creations. I would really love to see them. And also don't forget to subscribe and like this video because that really helps me out and helps my channel out a lot. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!